The following feature presentation is part of the Skywalking Network.
This is what you can look forward to on this toyetic episode 422 of Skywalking Through Neverland.
You are just as synonymous with Star Wars as Mark Hamill or Harrison Ford or Carrie Fisher. Everyone knew your face.
It's more about just connecting with people that remember. And I mean, it's the best medicine on the planet for me. People used to joke that HBO stood for, hey, BeastMaster's on.
Hi, I'm Josh Milrad. I played the young King Tall in the 1982 cult classic, The BeastMaster.
He said, I still have the box. He said, you were in my bedroom forever.
Are you ready?
Welcome to Neverland.
Here we go.
A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome. Disneyland is your land.
When I first made Star Wars, everybody in Hollywood said, well, this is a movie Disney should have made.
You're more than just fans. You're family.
Best day ever!
Secrets love. It's about family, and that's what's so powerful about it.
Hey.
When you use a bird to write with, it's called tweeting.
When we visit the world of Disney, we never grow old. It's a Peter Pan, Never land that keeps us young in heart.
This is Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi, and you are skywalking through Neverland. I have a good feeling about this.
Hey, Skywalkers, ever wondered... You know what? Sarah brought home some pizzos.
Should we show them the pizzas?
Oh, we'll do it later on.
Okay.
Yeah,
we'll show them after.
It's these Cheetos with very loose dust on it, and I had a couple right before the show.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay,
so...
That was your fault.
It was my fault. Hey, Skywalkers! Ever wonder what happened to those kids that were on the Kenner Toy Star Wars packages? Yes, what happened to them? Well, we have answers to that question, but first... we want to welcome you back to Skywalking Through Neverland. I am Richard Woloski, but now everyone please say hello to my sweetie wife Sarah, who surprised me today with a big bag of pizzos. Not the greeny green ones.
They weren't greeny green ones. They were orangey orange ones.
They were orangey Ninja Turtle ones.
Yes, but they were made out of peas, which is why they're called Pitos, like Cheetos, but peas. But if you just change that T to a Z, it was Pizzos, so I had to get them.
Now, for any of you wondering, what are you guys talking about? Remember in Andor, right before Andor was arrested?
Yes, in episode 7.
Yeah.
Right?
In Niamos.
Yes.
The beach side planet.
He had a one-night stand with a woman.
Yes, who wanted pizzos.
Yes.
She kept saying, hey, if you're going out, get some pizzos. And then
the
she
greeny
says,
green ones.
The greeny green ones.
Yes.
So Sarah surprised me today with a big bag of, what are they called? Pitos? Pitos.
Yes. They're vegan.
Because we just rewatched Andor, and once we saw that scene again, that's all we've been able to say to each other for the last couple of weeks. Going to the store, get some pizzos.
Get some pizzos.
The greeny green ones. And now here Sarah is surprising me with a bag of Pitos. Yes, and it's a Ninja Turtle tie-in somehow. They have got Ninja Turtles on them, and there's a new Ninja Turtle movie coming out, an animated Ninja Turtle movie. How it ties in, I don't know.
I don't know, but that's our story, and we're sticking to it.
And if you get them, eat them with a glass of water standing by, because they have a lot of loose flavored dust on it.
It's not cheese, but it's supposed to taste like cheese. They're supposed to be Cheetos.
It's a Cheeto knockoff.
Yeah, made of peas. Okay.
All right. So with that.
With that, everyone, we are your enthusiastic podcast destination for the many decades of your Star Wars, Disney, and Marvel fandom. Who knows where that will take you? This week, it took us to Pitos. So imagine a big Wookiee hug and a little sprinkle of pixie dust for our family of Skywalkers. We are so happy that we can do that every week and just send the love your way. Now, coming up on this episode, we will be speaking with Chris Timmons and Joshua Milrad, the Kenner Kids.
Woohoo!
Chris was featured on the Death Star playset box, which you can see behind us if you're watching the YouTube version.
That's Chris right there.
And Joshua was in the Rebel Armored Snowspeeder commercial, and many may know him as the kid named Tall from the BeastMaster. So many exclusive and rare stories coming up.
I've been waiting to do this episode for months. Months and months. Oh, I'm so excited. Do you know why I'm also excited?
Why?
Because we are being sponsored by Small World Vacations, and they are a diamond-level Disney vacation planner travel agency and can help you book your trip to a Disney park around the world. And if you can, on the Galactic Star Cruiser.
Not anymore.
Book
They're
now.
all booked up.
Hurry up and book. But best of all, this service is free. Yep, free of charge. So head over there to smallworldvacations.com for a no-obligation price quote and tell them Skywalking Through Neverland sent you.
Now we are recording this episode from Long Beach, California on June 12th, 2023. Now, Richard, what happened today in Star Wars history?
Today, 42 years ago today, we saw Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Well, some of us did in the theater.
1981. You were born, so there's no excuse.
I was born. I wouldn't remember if my parents took me. In fact, if my parents took me as a, what would this be, 3-month-old? Then they would be not very good parents at that point.
Well, you know how I celebrated this day 42 years ago?
How?
By skipping school.
Of course you did.
Yeah, and the teachers were none the wiser. When I skipped school to see The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi...
You didn't tweet about it?
They all knew.
Oh, okay.
they all say, okay, yeah, we know why you skipped school, but this they didn't really associate with Star Wars, but to me, it's made by George Lucas.
Yeah.
Music by John Williams.
Yep.
And starring Harrison Ford. This is as good as a Star Wars movie.
Yeah, and Spielberg involved too, like Spielberg, Williams, all that.
Yeah, I wasn't into Spielberg back then, because at this point, he had just, as far as I knew, just done Jaws, and Jaws scared the Jaws out of me.
Right. Oh, E.T., I guess, was
82,
after.
yeah.
82,
So
okay.
he had like 1941, and so he wasn't...
What about Close Encounters?
Close Encounters, yeah.
Okay.
Right, but I really associated him with Jaws, and he scared me, and Close Encounters, when you saw that in 1977, it's like, hey, where's all these space battles and Wookiees? If anything, we had a 4-minute alien scene at the very end. Wasn't enough for the Star Wars starved audience. So to me, it was all about the Lucas, Williams, and Ford connection.
Makes sense.
And then, having been a subscriber to Bantha Tracks, the Star Wars fan club newsletter, I knew all about Raiders working up to it, and because I had read all the articles, and I knew that all the crew, the production designer, and the prop master, and everyone had worked on Star Wars, and they went over to Raiders.
Oh, perfect.
In fact, our good friend Mickey Herman, who's been on the show a number of times, she worked on Raiders.
Yeah.
Now, leading up to the premiere of Raiders, when we didn't really know what was going on, we had a trailer, which it started off with the title of the film, Raiders of the Lost Ark. It sounds like something you'd see in Sunday school.
Yes.
So a lot of us were like, ugh. Like when we saw Hanover Street, like, some kind of
it's a weird
drama.
Name. Yeah.
Drama with Harrison Ford and Leslie Ann Warren or Leslie Ann Down, one of the Leslies. It's like, oh, okay, I'll see it because of Harrison Ford. And the novelization just had a picture of Indy and Marion just, looking at each other. So it's like, oh, okay, this is one of these love stories.
Oh.
A love story you'd probably hear about in Sunday school, because you got to tie in the arcs. All right, it's educational. It's there's a lot of talking in it. All right, fine. Fine. I'll see it, but you know what? Not very happily. But then with the trailer, they took the title and they put it at the end of the second released trailer.
Okay.
So now it opened up with a lot of action scenes, and everyone's like, whoa, what is this? We don't even care about the title anymore. We just want to see Harrison Ford in this almost like a Han Solo knockoff character. And he's flicking a bullwhip. He's shooting Arab swordsmen. There's a lot of comedy in it. Oh, this is awesome. So that's why I thought, okay, I got to skip school to see this, because I don't really know what it is, but they've been really steering away from the whole Sunday school aspect, from the whole the Marion and Indiana Jones novelization, because they soon changed the cover of the novelization.
Okay.
Because what kid of my age of 12 is going to pick
No.
up the novel with just two people looking at each other?
Right. So what did you think when you skipped
I
school and saw it?
I couldn't believe it. This was like a new Star Wars film for an older generation, because you had some swearing in
Yes,
it. You
you
had
do.
some scary moments. So as the Star Wars audience grew, so did these movies.
They were ready for it.
Yes.
Nice.
So the movies were growing with the audience, and so I was so excited. I went to John's store down the street, the little convenience store, bought all the Raiders comics and the Topps trading cards. I couldn't get enough of it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, save some of those stories
Okay.
for later on in the month, because a new Indiana Jones film is coming, everyone, and we are super excited.
Yes, we are. Oh my goodness. Oh, May was Star Wars month.
Yep.
June is Indiana Jones month.
Yay! Exciting.
All right, with that, let's get into our really fun discussion with the Kenner kids. Chris Timmons, who appeared on the Death Star Space Station playset box right behind us right over here, and Josh Milrad, a child actor who appeared in the Snowspeeder commercial, and he was one of the leads in 1982's The BeastMaster.
And big thanks to Skywalker Ramon Cardenas for messaging us about his friend Chris Timmons and getting the ball rolling. Pun intended. If you have any leads that can connect us with other Kenner kids, please reach out and let us know, because we really want to find the other kid on the Death Star box. This is this guy in the shadows.
Yeah, see this guy in the magenta shirt?
Yeah.
We need to find this kid now.
We need to find him and the other kid in the Snowspeeder commercial. And then there's the kid in the blue shirt on the original 1979 Millennium Falcon box.
I think it'll be a fun trifecta.
Oh, that would be amazing.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so just as a reminder, to see our video conversation with plenty of pictures and video, and to actually see the Kenner kids, please watch our YouTube version of the show.
Growing up and playing Star Wars, every kid wanted to be Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, or Princess Leia. But knowing that dream was just out of reality, some of us wanted to be that kid on the Kenner Star Wars toy packages.
Some of these chosen kids seen playing with land speeders, creature cantinas, and the Millennium Falcon are now starting to surface. Chris Timmons was one of these kids seen on the Death Star Space Station box, and now he can be seen here.
Hey, Chris!
Hi, guys. How are you today?
We are good, and after a, 45-year search, we found you.
Yeah, I didn't know I was missing, but...
Yeah, there's been wanted posters up everywhere, toy stores.
Yeah.
If you can find a Toys R Us, you'll find your poster there, Child's World.
That's so funny, yeah.
Child's World.
I mean, who's still missing is the kid in the red turtleneck.
Yeah.
Yeah. And thanks to some of our Skywalkers who said, hey, you guys really need this guy, Chris Timmons, on your show. It's like, all right, done and done.
You're right.
A little while ago, we had Jim Swearingen on the show, and he's one of the Kenner toy designers.
Okay.
And one of our questions was, who were these Kenner kids?
He's like, I don't know.
And he said they're probably kids of the Kenner employees, but now more and more of you are starting to surface. So let's go back to the very beginning. How did you get picked as one of the Death Star Space Station toy box kids?
Okay, well, I lived in a town by the name of Beaver Creek, Ohio, which is near Dayton, Ohio. And Kenner and the modeling agency were located in Cincinnati, Ohio, about 45 minutes south. One of my good friends in second grade's mom worked for the modeling agency, and they said, go find us 8-year-old boys. Completely different connotation than it is now. And so she came to school with a Polaroid and releases, and lined up like 20 of us boys against the wall and took a picture of each one of us, sent the releases home, and then our parents signed them. And then the modeling agency was like, that kid with the weird haircut, and brought me in, my friend as well. I personally think that was because it was his mom, and then the kid in the red turtleneck, which I had never met before that day or after.
How odd.
Yeah, it's funny how a lot of these Star Wars stories are the same. We talked to Tim Donaldson, who played one of the Jawas in Star Wars for the pickup scenes they were shooting for the extra fill-in shots. And he said the same thing. Someone came to our school, lined up all the kids, took pictures, and that's how it was done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You do that nowadays, and you're gonna find yourself in talking to a lot of authorities.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. It was exciting. I was excited to be picked to begin with, and then even more excited to be picked for the box.
Yeah. So were you a big Star Wars fan at that age?
Oh my God, yes. I mean, the movie had just come out. Times were obviously different than they are now. So that was the first movie I got to see by myself. My dad, I remember, drove us to the movie theater, dropped me and my friend off. 8 years old. I couldn't picture doing that. So he just be back in a couple hours. And then, we walked up, bought our tickets, went in, sat down, and then all of a sudden, it's just mind blown the whole time. And I was like, oh my God. So yeah, I was immediately, robots and androids and lasers and magic. And I was sucked in immediately. And then to have this honor was just mind boggling. And truthfully, as I mentioned before we started recording, I have felt part of the Star Wars legacy since pretty much day one. I'm still a huge Star Wars. You look around my office, I have Star Wars stuff everywhere, strewn throughout, and my house. And I mean, people know what to get me for Christmas. It's just like, look at this. That's an original.
An original 1983 plush Ewok.
Oh my goodness.
That is, you know what? You are just as synonymous with Star Wars as Mark Hamill or Harrison Ford or Carrie Fisher. Everyone knew your face. How old were you at the time that you did this photo shoot?
I was 8 years old. Yeah, I'm 54 right now.
All right, so you and I are the same age.
Yeah. So no, and it's weird that I'm iconic, but like one friend just recently discovered that I was the kid on the box, and he's like, I have grown up with you, because he's about 4 or 5 years younger than me. He said, I still have the box. He said, you were in my bedroom forever. And the funny thing is, I joke about it, but people are like, you got a familiar face, and I'm like,
more familiar than you may think.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. I've had my Death Star box seen right here. This is my original Death Star box ever since I was a kid. This is my, because these toys were pretty expensive.
Yeah.
I can recall this going for a king's ransom of $20.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Yeah.
And back then, that was a king's ransom. So not only did I play with the Death Star playset, but I played with the box as well.
Yeah, I got one for Christmas that year.
Wow. Yeah. That's so okay, what was that like? Opening up the Christmas present and you see your face and it's a Star Wars toy. Like what? Bring us through that.
Well, I mean, that was well, first of all, I'd have been pissed if I hadn't gotten it for Christmas. But no, that was pretty exciting. What was really, really cool though, and somewhat disappointing, is that first Christmas that they came out, going into Kmart and just seeing rows and rows of the Death Star, and there's my face everywhere. And I probably stood in that toy section for an hour and a half, hoping and waiting somebody would be like, hey! It never happened. It never happened. But I remember just it being so surreal seeing that in the store at that age.
So in the store, though, were you wearing your yellow turtleneck?
No, I was not. No.
Well, there you go.
I mean, I don't like turtlenecks. I still didn't like them then. But
but we are very honored that you're wearing a yellow turtleneck right now.
Yeah, I have to.
Now, did that Death Star place that you got for Christmas, was that from Kenner or Mom and Dad or Santa Claus?
Santa Claus. Yeah.
Okay.
Santa Claus. Santa Claus brought it for me. No, everybody asks, did I get to keep the toy, or did we get to keep the toys? No, we didn't. Matter of fact, every piece you see was glued in place.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you weren't really playing with it. You were just posing with it.
No, it was so weird. Yeah, it was. I mean, that was also somewhat disappointing. The picture that they chose was the photographer saying, "Think of all the money you're making," because I was not excited. I was disappointed because, here I am, 8 years old. Star Wars is amazing. And first of all, it was weird because we walked into this huge, it's probably not as big as, everything's big when you're 8, but huge empty warehouse. It felt creepy. It's dark. We walk all the way back towards like the back, and then there's the photographer, their assistant, and this toy on essentially a card table with the orange paper backdrop. And I was like, okay, cool. And then there's this awesome toy, and then just everything. The turret was glued. The stormtrooper was glued into the seat. And so you just had to act like you were playing with it.
Oh, that's some pretty good acting right there. But now, take us through that day. When you got to the studio, did you know what you were walking into? A Star Wars toy photo shoot?
I knew it was going to be a Star Wars toy photo shoot. Had no idea what the toy was going to be. There were a couple firsts for me that day. I mean, 8 years old. One was White Castle. I had my very first White Castle hamburger ever. Been hooked ever since. And then going into the warehouse, and it was kind of overwhelming at first. And then so I would I'd take a few shots with me up at top playing the turret, and then he would switch, and then there was a third guy. So it was about 3 hours of different shots and shooting, which was also interesting. And then they ultimately chose that one. I did model for C-3PO walkie-talkie as well about a month later, 2 months later, but that never made production.
Wow. Yeah. Oh, my goodness.
And I wanted to be a model after that. And I was like, yes, let's be a model. And my mom put together a very lame
portfolio.
Yeah, portfolio, like school shots and just this. I was like, this. Even then, I knew that was like, this is lame.
Come on, you're the Death Star kid. You don't need to audition for nothing anymore.
Yeah, and she sent it off to a couple agencies, and nothing ever came of it, which is probably okay.
And I'm sure you were so excited that you're the primary kid in this artwork, because the other kids really buried in the shadows.
Yeah, it was surprising and cool. And then within like the last year is really the popularity has kicked back in. So it was like crickets. I'd tell people here and there, like, yeah, I was that kid, and oh, that's cool. But then just recently, it's exploded with the popularity of it. So this is like my second podcast I've done on it.
Oh,
okay.
Now, do you recall the other kid's name?
No, I mean, that would help me find them if I did. Like I said, I'd never met him before and never met him after. I think he lived local at Cincinnati.
Yeah, we've been searching for him as well.
I put a post out about 7 years ago on Facebook saying, look, I'm looking for this kid. Please spread it. And it didn't go viral, but it got spread around and nothing. And I would have thought in the last year or so, because everybody is looking for the kids of Star Wars, which is weird that he would come out. And like, you and I were texting. I was like, my wife blew my mind because she's like, maybe he doesn't care about Star Wars.
Whoa.
Yeah. No, it's true. And some people just aren't on social media at all. So
he'd be 50 something. And
yeah.
Now, did you two get along?
I don't even think we talked really.
Wow.
Yeah. Sometimes you'll hear about those photo shoots or films or TV shows where the stars hated each other.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought maybe you guys were jockeying for that main position, and he's like, hey, Chris, take a back seat here. I don't want to be buried in the shadows.
And maybe that's why he's like going ghost. Who knows, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully he's still alive, because things happen. All the time.
That's very true.
I wouldn't want to go there, but
I would love to recreate that shot.
That is going, if this gentleman is still alive, that's gonna happen.
I'll fly to wherever he is.
Wow.
And now, when you did this shot, the Death Star, this toy was probably months away from being released into the marketplace. So, did they tell you you can't tell anyone about this?
I don't recall signing or being told. I don't recall signing any like silence and no disclosure,
NDAs.
non-disclosure, or anything like that. They're probably like, who's this 8-year-old kid going to mess things up? So that would have been the school year. So it was probably, it was warm. So it was probably spring, close to the summertime. And then that didn't come out until Christmas.
Wow.
Did they tell you that it's going to be released later on in the year? Or were you like the next day running to Toys R Us going, where's the toy now? Where is it? Where is it?
No, they said it would be a much later release. Okay. And it took probably about a couple weeks, as I recall, before I even found out that I had been one of the chosen ones.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Yeah. So, I didn't even know right away.
Oh, I was a very impatient child. I would have been going to Target that afternoon going, okay, where's the toy? Where is it?
An impatient child.
Yeah, can you believe it?
No, I was playing with my tape recorder I bought with the money.
Oh, nice. Well, there you go.
Do you still have that tape recorder now?
No, I don't. No, my mom made me put most of the money in the bank account, which was cool. But she let me take, $40, which was at the time a lot of money, and I could spend it on whatever I wanted. And I wanted one of the newfangled tape recorder thing. So I remember being very serious and going into Radio Shack and listening to this one and that one. I picked this recorder and then I remember, the radio, and you'd be waiting for your song, and then you're like, okay, click, record, yeah.
Then telling everyone else in the house to be quiet. Everyone be quiet.
Yeah. Or you call and make your request so you could hear it, and then just wait hours and hours and hours.
All right, when Casey and the Sunshine Band comes on, I want silence everywhere. Now, being a big Star Wars fan, and now you're getting to play with this new unreleased toy, were you just going out of your mind? Because this is a very, very impressive play set. And did they maybe have one set up where you could play with it before you took pictures? No,
there was that one glued together in a dark warehouse. That was it.
That was it. Wow, that's so surprising. But I think that's really funny that you remember that they said, okay, think of the money you're making.
Yeah, because
to an 8-year-old.
That's you thinking of your recorder.
Yeah, no, I mean, I do remember that shot. Yeah, because I think my face was like, this is stupid. I want to play with this. I was getting paid, I believe it was 20. It was either 20 or 25 an hour for an 8-year-old kid at that time frame.
Wow.
That was a lot of money.
Back in 1978, that was a lot of money for a kid.
Yeah. So
my goodness.
I was like, yes. I've always liked money.
So what did the kids in school think? Like when this box finally came out, what did they think when they saw your face on this Star Wars toy?
Surprisingly, none of them really, excuse my language, gave a shit.
Did you tell them beforehand?
Yeah, I mean, I told my friends and all that, but you're in second grade. Your exposure to other kids is essentially your class of 15 or 20 that were in there, and then maybe a couple other kids that in the neighborhood. And I think I had some popularity, and like I said, I've gotten more notoriety about it in the last year than the whole rest of the time.
That's very unusual because this is the toy everyone clamored for.
Yeah.
So I'm sure every one of your classmates saw that, and maybe they had that disconnect. How could he be on the toy package and yet be in our math class at the same time?
And he's not wearing a yellow turtleneck.
And he's not wearing yellow. I mean, whoever I've told for the last 40 some years and showed him the picture, it was always like, oh my God, wow, that's awesome. But to be sought out and doing interviews and signing autographs and it's weird because it was the junk man or something. He was like looking for the lost kids of Star Wars, and he had a YouTube link, and I believe Ramon, the one that helped us get hooked up, he sent me the link. He goes, this guy's looking for you, And so I went and looked at it, and he had a picture of he had the Death Star. He's like, I want to find this kid and the other kids. And he said, I'll give $100 to whoever can prove that they're this person, one of the models. And I was like, I'm the kid in the yellow turtleneck. And he's like, prove it, and gave me his email address. And like, how do I prove that from back? How do I prove that?
Maybe some de-aging digital makeup, maybe?
Yeah, I was like, I could have my mom verify it, but she's biased. So I just told the story of the day, and our mutual friend, he had actually, I don't know how he found it, but he'd found the post I did like 7 years ago asking to find the kid in the red turtleneck. And that was enough for this guy to be like, yeah, it's you. So then I got on that, and then I said I would sign autographs, and I will. I'll sign autographs for five. Actually, it's $10 now. $10 an autograph. And I had people mailing me photos to be signed with money and self-addressed envelopes, and it's pretty funny. It's pretty wild.
Nice.
Yeah, I did see you on that Junkman YouTube show.
Yeah.
And right before that, didn't you walk into a toy store and you pointed to a Death Star box on a shelf and said, hey, that's me? And that's how this whole thing started?
No, that was right about the same time. So that was the other store business in town that we partnered with to have the Star Wars event. She sells, it's Retro and Rad, amazing store, and Kelly is awesome, love her, New Cumberland, Pennsylvania. So she specializes in retro toys, Star Wars, video games, anything retro. And my office is just a few doors down. We were on a walk, and I stopped in and I was like, do you have a Death Star? And she said, I've got one in the back, but it's not ready for sale. And I'm like, well, I'm the kid on it. And she's like, no, you're not. I'm like, yes, I am. And she brought it out, and she's like, oh my God, you are. And so I bought it right then and there, and she took a picture of me with it, and then she posted it on hers, and that kind of went viral. And then I got a bunch of friend requests, and it's been a lot of fun. So that's I own 2 boxes now, and neither box is in great shape, but the one's 100% complete, and the other one's about 95% complete. And
is one of those from your original childhood, from the original collection?
My mom had it and then lost it, so my original one's gone. And I'd love to find a nicer box. There was one just recently auctioned. A friend of mine's brother has an auction house, and they just auctioned a mint one, but it went like 5 digits. So I was like, the opening bid was like more than I would even ever want to spend on it. So I was like, let it go.
So the vintage toy shop that's down the street from your office, have you done any kind of autograph signings there? Where have you signed autographs?
Here in my office. So I own a real estate company, and my office it's unique. It's called the Barfist because we bought a bar and left it looking like a bar. Now we got rid of the kitchen and put offices in, and put some glass offices here and there, but we've left the 50-foot long oak bar and the opening. Wow. People walk in and they're very confused. So that's where we had it. Like I said, we had the vendor setting up in the main area, and I stood behind the bar and signed autographs, and $10, and those it was a donations for actually charity. So all the money I made for that went to, it's called West Shore, where we live on the west side of the river, West Shore Meals on Wheels, because we really wanted it. That's my charity of choice, because there's so many old people, and I'm getting older, and there's so very few actual charities for them. Everybody's like, let's help the kids and this, that, and that's awesome. But I'm telling you, man, this Meals on Wheels, $7 is like 3 meals for these people. And, and it is some of the only interaction they have with people, and like a health and wellness check is when these people come and drop the food off for them. So I feel very passionate about it, because, dude, they helped get us where we're at, and we're just going to ignore them. And that's unfortunate.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah. Is there any place, do you have like a website up or anywhere where people can donate if they'd like to? even if just listening to this podcast?
That's a great idea. Hadn't thought of that. No, but I mean, they could go to my business page on Facebook. Probably that'd be a good way, and then we could let them know. So my business is the Chris Timmons team.
Okay.
I'm a real estate company, EXP, and or you could go. Yeah, that'd be the best. Just Google Chris Timmons Realtor and look for the one in Pennsylvania, and that's me. Because there's another one in like California or something.
Okay.
When people come to see you, did they bring their own glossies, or did you have the Death Star box glossies?
Yeah, there we go. I had my own glossies already ready. So, but if somebody wanted to bring something, I would have signed it. Some people said they were going to bring their box, and I would sign it.
What about future Star Wars conventions or fan events or Comic-Cons?
People keep trying to talk me into that, and
Do it.
Yeah, but there's an expense associated with it.
But for local conventions, you're in Pennsylvania, correct?
Yeah, I am in Pennsylvania. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll probably try a local one to see how that goes. To me, it feels weird. It does. I'm like, why would anybody want my autograph? But
all right. If the third stormtrooper on the right on one small frame of Star Wars can sign autographs and make a lot of money, I think you are a shoo-in.
So you're for real about that.
For something like this that is very unique, and that has never been done before, there would be a big line for you, especially because this connects with your childhood. When I saw this, I thought this, and I saw you on the Junkman, I thought, oh, he's part of my childhood.
Yeah.
Right. And that's it's a nostalgia thing. Like at this point, like the kids in your class when you were 8 years old were like, whatever, because it wasn't nostalgic yet. Right. The Death Star box. Right. But now it's been how many years? And you are part of the childhood.
40.
Like I just recently met someone who was part of my childhood, and I like freaked out because
when she met Timothy Zahn, she went nuts.
Yeah.
And that's how people would be for you, because that was 45 years ago.
Yeah.
And if you had a Death Star on your table so you guys could recreate this shot, money in the bank. Money in the bank.
Like the person who comes up can
be that missing kid.
The missing kid. Have a picture with you.
Idea. Picture and then,
Yep.
Can you imagine all the elderly who will never be alone anymore from all the money you raise for charity?
Yes. Also, one of the things I do recommend you hook up with is Frank Rich of Star Wars Autograph News, because he knows a lot of people who loves autographs. He'd have a big handle on how many people would be interested in your autograph, because they are all about autographs.
And management. Because sometimes you just need the person to set you up for something. Because if you have your own real estate business, I'm sure you're very, very busy.
Right.
I have that. And we've just started a virtual assistant company to help small businesses with that. And a title company, and then we just opened an Airbnb, and I've got a flip going. So,
wow,
always doing stuff.
Right. So I'm sure a manager takes a little bit of the cut, and just to have that connection with the people.
Yeah.
And we've talked to a lot of people from the classic era, and a tear comes to their eye when they say, people come up to me and they share these stories about how their family wasn't doing well, but they got this toy or got to see this movie, and it just made all the difference in the world. Just have a box of Kleenex on your table and the Death Star, and recreate this scene and say, hey, until this kid shows up, the missing kid,
is you.
Who's going to step in there?
Yep.
That's awesome. Okay. No, I think you convinced me.
Nice.
Yeah, we'll help you make those connections.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, if people want to reach out to you on social media, on Facebook, or just say, I'm in the Pennsylvania area, I need a house, where do they go?
Well, social media is easy. Chris Timmons, Chris Timmons, face is pretty obvious. The Chris Timmons team, if you're looking for the business page, if you want to just Google Central Pennsylvania, Chris Timmons Realtor, I guarantee you I'm the first one that pops up. Probably if you just Google Chris Timmons Realtor, and you'll be able to find me on Instagram and I think TikTok and all those wonderful things.
And then stock up on those yellow turtlenecks, sign those, sell them well.
Too. Yeah. Or, you can send me an email to Chris the Realtor, the number 4, the letter U, at teamtimmonsgroup.com. My wife hates that email address.
We'll put those in the show notes.
Yes.
Yeah, but like I tell her, it's only long the first time because after that it's autofill.
Nice.
Well, Chris, thank you so much for coming on Skywalking Through Neverland and answering those questions that have been burning for 45 years.
Yeah, and you're welcome. I'm going to throw it out again one more time because I'm going to say this every damn time. I will be complete if I get to be an extra in a movie. So Disney, please. I'm photogenic. I'm easy. I take the directions. I mean, come on.
Nice.
Well, we'll see what we can do.
There we go. That's awesome. I'll put in a word for you too. And actually, when you're sending me the notes and everything, send me your address. I'll send you an autograph.
Oh, that would be great.
Well, thank you very much. I
Absolutely.
appreciate that.
I appreciate this. This is a lot of fun.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris. Amazing.
Here's the new Star Wars Death Star space station that you put together. Action figures each sold separately.
Darth Vader's firing a laser cannon. It's been hit. He's after Luke. Take the elevator. Hurry. Now cross the light bridge. You won't escape me. Jump, Luke. Oh, no. The trash compactor. There's a trash monster. The wall's closing. Save.
Kenner's new Star Wars Death Star space station. Action figures each sold separately.
Wouldn't it be awesome if Chris was cast as a Death Star commander in Andor Season 2? Because he's on the Death Star box. And now you got to put him in a Death Star scene. He could have a yellow turtleneck tunic.
Yeah.
It would be perfect. So we need to make this happen.
Amazing.
All right, so get on the horn to Dave Filoni or not Dave Filoni. Well, right now no one. Because they're all on strike.
Go to the strike line and start talking to people.
Yeah, Chris, we're gonna make you a yellow tunic and just start walking in front of Tony Gilroy and say, "Oh, what? Do you need another extra for Andor Season 2? Well, I can be there." Or have him be like one of the gunners, like on the box.
Yep.
So we're gonna make this happen too. Okay, we're gonna find a way to get Chris Timmons into Andor Season 2 into a Death Star scene.
Shoutouts, Skywalker shoutouts. Which Skywalkers get props from here in Neverland? Who was tweeted out? Shout out. Who was photobombed? Shout out. Who was shared a post? Shout out.
Shoutouts this episode. We want to give a huge, huge thank you to the Skywalking Force. You are what gives us life. You are what keeps this podcast going. It is fueled all by you. So thank you, Skywalkers, and thank you to Anthony Kakias,
Blessed Cheesemaker,
Bryn McKinnon,
Carl Fox,
Chickafent,
Christopher Marino,
Courtney Turkel,
Darren Irvine,
Dave Kerwin,
Don Glover,
Garrett Sessions,
Glenn Stein,
Jennifer Cole,
Jeremy and Heather Hunt,
John Liang,
John Zancanaro,
Julie Caruana,
Kelly Turkel,
Laura Bryce,
Meredith Duckworth,
Michael Corbett,
Michael Nip,
Mike Ward,
Nancy Steinman,
Patrick Pine,
Patty Hammond,
Patty Nazarian,
Peter and Norma Heitman,
Reynold Gobey,
Scott Carmichael,
Scott Hume,
Terry Lee,
Wesley Meecombs,
Wynn Patterson, and my sister. Did she fall off the list?
Apparently. Oh, you gotta talk to your sister.
Yeah, because she's getting the credit card bills. So, and an extra shout out to my sister Lisa and Jeremy Stevenson.
That's right.
All right, so thank you to one and to all, and we always like to tell you what we're spending this Patreon Skywalking Force money on, like these new microphones.
Mm-hmm.
These have been a big lifesaver because the ones we had up until these microphones here are the microphones we got back in 2013 when we began the show, and they were starting to show a little wear. You hear a little crackle in the recordings. They weren't the cables; they were the microphones themselves.
Right.
So it was very much needed, and because of you, we got these new microphones and these little microphone arms.
Stands are really cool.
Now we don't have this big microphone, big tripod in our way.
Yeah. It's really neat.
So you've made our lives very, very comfortable. So thank you. And once again, for all the Libsyn Libsyn posting?
Libsyn fees.
Yes.
And website fees, all of that stuff. You know, it costs money to run a podcast. So we thank you guys so much. And again, you are why we are here.
Thank you, and big Wookiee hugs to each and every one of you. There were so many reasons to be envious of other kids who had the newest or most expensive Star Wars toy, but on another level, we were also envious of the kids who got to be featured on the Kenner toy packages and in the commercials.
Our search for the Kenner kids has brought us to Josh Milrad, who not only appeared in the Rebel Armored Snowspeeder toy commercial, but he's also featured in a beloved 1980s film.
Hey, Josh!
How's it going? Good to see you guys. Sarah, Richard, pleasure. Thank you for having me.
The pleasure is ours because I've been watching you since 1980. And here you are flying around with that snowspeeder in that commercial. It's like, I want to be that kid.
You actually remember that commercial? Is that what you're telling me?
Very, very much
really?
so.
Okay. Fair enough.
Because back then the commercials would come out before the toys. So I would drive my mother nuts going down to the Toys R Us to see if that toy came out. And it was like a couple of weeks later until finally it's like, okay, stop bugging me. It's on the shelf. It's worth it just to get that toy to have you shut up. But then,
I was the Toys R Us kid too.
Yeah.
Yes.
You'd walk in and say, hey, Jeffrey, where's the snowspeeder? Aisle 6? All right, move out of my way.
And then taking my son through Toys R Us has been just the thrill of a lifetime. I mean, it all comes full circle. Here's my son combing the aisles when he was a little boy for Star Wars toys. That was amazing. I mean, what can I tell you?
Really? At what point did you tell him I was a part of that whole phenomenon?
Well, much later, when the internet was a thing, and I actually found the commercial online, or I think a friend of mine actually sent it to me, and I showed it to him on his iPad, and he was amused. He wasn't blown away. It wasn't like a life shed moment for him, I don't think, but he gave me a smile, and he does love Star Wars, and he loves Star Wars toys, and God, we've invested a fortune over the years in Star Wars toys, and we've inherited a lot of them handed down from parents and kids from other families, and that's been a thrill. They'll say, where did that one come from? Oh, this was from Uncle Tom, who's no longer with us, or this was sent by your cousin, or this we found, somebody gave it to you at a party, or whatever it was, or birthday, Christmas, what have you. Yeah.
I know at certain ages it's very hard to discern what is real life and what is TV and film life, because I've had friends who were in TV shows growing up in Boston, but yet, wait a minute, how can you be on a TV show? You're sitting behind me in English class. How could that be? So maybe did your son go, Dad, how could that be you? This kid's 8 years old. Or did he really accept it?
I think by the time I showed him the video, he understood that he was old enough to understand that I was a kid. He had some questions. How much school did you miss? That was he was more interested in that angle, right? But a quick funny story that you may or may not want to use about Star Wars. So the first time I introduced my son to Star Wars, I figured, I'll show him the Ewok one. It's friendly, right? Kid friendly. The third movie, Return of the Jedi, right? No, yes.
Third movie, but part 6.
So I decided to show him Star Wars for the first time, and I started with Return of the Jedi, the Ewok movie. I figured it was the most kid friendly. He had a big obsession with Darth Vader for some reason, and I had forgotten the very end of that movie, where he's burned on the funeral pyre. And we got to that scene, and my son was like 7 or 8, and he started bawling and crying, and I felt so terrible. There was this hero having this Viking funeral in the future, the past, or whatever Star Wars is supposed to be. And anyway, he got over it, but it was pretty traumatic for a day or so there. Yeah, it was wild. But he loves Star Wars more than I do.
Then don't show him Revenge of the Sith.
Oh, he's seen them all now, and the animated ones. He knows more about it than I ever will. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Yeah.
Before the Snowspeeder commercial, you had appeared in another commercial.
I did a number of commercials as a boy. One was for Lego. I'm just trying to think of the ones that might actually be able to be found. One was for Lego. One was for the Star Wars, and Sergio Valente, when designer jeans were a big deal in the 80s. Sarah, you're probably too young to even know about this, but if you look up on the internet, there was a time when these very fanciful, tight-fitting jeans were all the rage with the youths. And sure enough, I was cast in this ridiculous but fun commercial where we were dancing around saying, "We love you, Sergio." And I'm sure that's on my webpage somewhere, on my YouTube page. And that was actually a really fun one because I was a little more featured than I was in the Star Wars commercial. But of course, being any way affiliated with the Star Wars family is just a privilege and an honor.
Well, what I was referring to while going through your YouTube page and doing some research, you were in a commercial at 9 months old.
I was. I guess you'd call me a Nepo baby, although I'm not rich and successful. I'm not complaining. But anyway, my folks were in show business. They're both retired now, but they had dear friends in New York City. Danny Dayton, who's a famous actor. You can look him up, director. He was in the Guys and Dolls movie. He's a wonderful actor. He also became a commercial director later on. And he asked if, I was recently born. He asked if he could put me in this Dawn dishwashing liquid commercial, which I think we have on 8mm film somewhere. I have to dig that up.
Wow.
I know, it's crazy, right? But so I don't have no memory of that, of course. But that was my introduction. And then in New York, I did do some other jobs. There was a small part in a movie with Shirley. It was a gangster movie. What the hell was it called? I'll think of it. We'll come back to it. But I did a number of jobs as a kid, everything from print work to commercials to a little bit of dramatic acting. And then we moved out to California in 1980, and I continued down that path pretty much through high school.
Oh, so when you did the Snowspeeder commercial, you were already a veteran.
Oh yeah, seasoned, grizzled veteran.
So what was that audition process like to get that commercial? Did they just give you the Snowspeeder and go, okay, here you go, play with it, and let's see how you do?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, it was a cattle call. I mean, not a complete cattle call. That we all had agents, and we were all kids that were being sent out bi-weekly or sometimes 2-3 times a week on different auditions. And we'd show up at this office and a waiting room, and there'd be a ton of kids in there. We were sat down at a table. I think I was with another boy or two, and we were just basically asked to play, and they were videotaping us. I don't think we had any lines in the commercial, and then they asked us to do a few specific movements just to make sure that we could be directed to move our hands steadily. That was kind of important to them, obviously, taking direction, because some of those shots were very tight, and to do hand stuff, you have to kind of slow it down, and they just wanted to make sure that the kids could take the direction. And I guess I just had the look they were going for one of the kids, and it was a one-day shoot, as I recall. I was excited. I can't deny it was very exciting for sure.
Yeah. So at the time when you were auditioning, did you know that it was for a Star Wars commercial?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
I was a big Star Wars fan. I saw Star Wars in 1977 at 8 years old in New York City. I mean, I was one of those in line, not the first day, but in the first couple months, I'm sure. Yeah, we went to see it.
Before we go into the commercial, let's see it actually
Okay.
first, so we
You
can
have
then.
it. Oh, wow.
Yes,
Yeah.
we do. All right, here it
fun. All
is.
Laser guns, test firing, release landing gear.
From Kenner Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back collection, it's new Rebel Armored Snowspeeder. Batteries not included.
You got my message.
C-3PO and Rebel Soldier action figures each sold separately.
We'll get you to safety. The Empire forces. We've got to escape.
Snowspeeder has laser guns with sound and light action.
Got 'em. Back to the rebel base.
Rebel Armored Snowspeeder. You have to put it together. Action figures each sold separately. New from Kenner.
Wow.
No.
I'll tell you, that is great. I never thought I was going to see that again until it popped up on some vintage commercial site.
Tell us about the commercial shoot day. You get there on set, and what happens?
We get there. Well, first of all, we wake up at crazy o'clock because you have to be there at an ungodly call time hour. It was probably 6 a.m. or 6:30 in the morning. So I'm pretty groggy, but excited. We get to the set, they put you right into hair and makeup to get you ready to wait around. And then you wait. I'm sure I had a school set. I don't remember my studio teacher, honestly, on that one, but usually they make you do a certain hours of school, maybe 3 hours, and so a package of work that you either bring from your home school or they're given to you. And you're waiting around for that first shot, and from what I remember, it was very traditional in that we did the master wide shot first of us coming down the stairs and all of that, and they wanted to just get the motion of the ship just right. So I'm sure we did a bunch of takes of that, just that master, and then they were focusing on their various insert shots. But if you look at it, there's not that many shots in the commercial. A couple of them are straight up product shots, so they shot that efficiently and in a day. but they did a lot of takes, and as well they should.
Yeah.
They were there.
Right.
You can really see where that slow snowspeeder insert
Yes.
shot comes in. It's like, okay, remember in the audition, we want you to do that very
Exactly
slow.
right.
So
That's
we can
right.
Steady.
capture that.
As a kid, when I was cast, I thought I was going to be showered in toys. I mean, that was the dream, right? I didn't care about the money. I wasn't able to spend the money or whatever, but I wanted the toys. So they sent us a couple toys to practice with. It wasn't an abundance of riches, but it was very special to get a couple prototypes because they weren't even really official. I don't think. I think they were just giving us stuff to play with, just to get loose and to feel confident. I sadly do not have those figures now. I have a whole shelf of figures over there I can show you later. I have a few of my original figures. I don't think any of those were the ones sent to me by them. Maybe, I don't know. I don't think so. Anyway, but again, just to be, and as a boy, you don't even appreciate what an honor it is necessarily to be brought into a franchise like that. It was still, not the beginning of the franchise, but it was in the upward trajectory still of the whole thing, right? But now, of course, working in entertainment my whole life, what a dream it would be to be any kind, to make your living in any way off of that amazing franchise that touched all our lives so deeply.
Who was the other kid in the commercial?
No idea.
Oh no! Did you guys get along on the set?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Come on.
okay.
What's not to love? I mean, you're there playing with toys for money, and it's Star Wars. I mean, no, we were all thrilled. I mean, come on. Yeah. No, there was no
Okay.
competition that I remember any negativity whatsoever. It was fun. It was definitely a fun experience.
Was he a child actor too, or did you have to show him
Yes.
the ropes? There's craft service over here, and when the AD yells, you listen.
No, he knew what he was doing, and it's not brain surgery. In all honesty, we didn't even have any lines. So as long as we could physically, do the physicality and listen and not drop stuff or waste everybody's time on the crew
Right.
and everything, we were good. And we had done other things, so we weren't completely unfamiliar with the workflow and the set and all of that. So I wouldn't say it was just another job, definitely not. But we both had been on the set before, and so that wasn't unfamiliar.
Yeah, you guys were professionals, but we do
Oh,
hear
yeah.
the kid's voice, as on this commercial. So who did they use?
I think that was looped. Don't you think that was looped? Does that sound like it real? I'd have to hear it again. It
Because
might have
we
been.
never see the boys speak on camera.
Right.
It's always when their mouths are out of the shot do they speak.
I have a feeling they hired a voice actor. Usually it's a woman that does young children. I could be wrong. It kind of does sound like my voice, but I can't claim it.
Yeah, it's either you or Nancy Cartwright who voices Bart Simpson.
That's
There you
right.
go.
Very, very similar. So when the commercial came out, what did you think of the final product? Like, oh, I could look more convincing over here, or because everyone's
I
their own
never
worst
liked
critic.
watching myself on the
No.
screen, and honestly, but that commercial was so fast. I mean, I have no complaints. I mean, it's a 30-second spot or whatever, and at that point, I wasn't too critical of myself yet with hair, face, skin, weight, all that crap that you have to deal with when you're a child actor. So no, I was pleased. I was thrilled. I just wanted to see it run on TV as much as possible because I did know that I would make more money if that happened.
Oh, you're a smart kid. Wow.
But not that I got to enjoy it. But I mean, as a kid, you got to put it away. But
Did the other kids in school, what did they think? Did anyone know that you were in it?
my best friend certainly knew. That was. I'm trying to think how old I was when I did that. I looked like I was about 8, I think maybe. So I think we moved to California 2 years later. So at the private school I went to in New York, which was Brooklyn Friends School, which is a very progressive Quaker school that both my parents taught at the time. It was a wonderful school. There weren't a lot of child actors there. And so it was fairly unique for me in that small environment. But my best friend certainly knew. We were excited, and we were all scouring for toys and waiting for the next movies and comic books. That was, I think, a thing already. So we definitely had the comic books. And then when I moved to Los Angeles, of course, there were many, many more child actors around me for a long time.
So this house, the location is back in New York. Have you ever gone back there just to check it out? And hey, can I find your backyard?
I couldn't even tell you what town it was, honestly. I mean, I was a kid. I was, I wasn't chauffeured, but I was driven there by my folks that, again, I was probably sleeping in the car. It was so early, And then by the time we left, it was probably dark, you know what I mean? There was no GPS or anything like that. And it was just old maps and candlelight. So I have no idea where it was. I'm guessing maybe somewhere upstate somewhere. I don't know. It could have been Long Island. I honestly don't know.
By any chance, do you still have the call sheet from that day?
Ha! No. I wish I
That's
did.
the first thing I was always tossed.
Well, that was my folks. You know what I mean? They hung on to some things, but call sheets just weren't high on their list.
Yeah.
That would have been cool to have, though. I mean, look, in retrospect, of course, that would have been an awesome thing to have as a memento, but no, I don't have it.
So now, did you feel like you were part of this whole Star Wars phenomenon when the commercial came out? Because Empire had, at that point, had been released when this toy was released. Did you feel like in some ways you were part of it?
In a small way, sure. Very small way. I mean, remember, I was already dreaming big as a young actor, so being in a commercial for me was kind of a training ground, and a way to get familiar with the set and how to interact with adults, at a very early age, and take direction and learn some of the technical terms to make you seem like you know what you're doing, as well as acting class and all of that kind of stuff. But so it felt good for sure, but it's not the same as being able to say I was in the movie, or even in the voicing a cartoon voice would be amazing. But yes, as a small footnote part of the family, I'm very proud to be there. Sure.
Well, that's why you're here right now on the show, because you are a part of the show.
That's very refreshing, actually, because I'm usually doing these things for something else. So this is great.
As a kid, I never really dreamt about being in a Star Wars movie, but I dreamt about being in a Star Wars toy commercial because they were kids and I could relate with that. So my mom's calling up Kenner, hey, do you need another Star Wars fan? Yeah, I can drive my son right over there. It never got anywhere.
Didn't happen, huh? Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. Well, be careful what you dream for. No, I mean, it was incredible, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend the child actor lifestyle as a way of life.
Knowing what we know now after all these documentaries,
I mean, it was
shows.
fun. I have incredible stories, but
right.
I grew up pretty fast.
Now, right before we spoke with you, we spoke with Chris Timmons, who was the boy on the Death Star toy box.
Oh.
And so some of you kids are starting to surface now. So there's got to be a Kenner convention at some point.
Richard, I'm in. If you organize that and I can get there and I don't lose money, I'm in. That's what I always tell the convention people. I'll do any convention you want because I love being there. I love getting the love. I love that some people remember things. And as long as I don't lose money, I'm in. Or if I don't lose more than $100, I'm in.
Yeah.
If there's a little reward, all the better. But it's more about just connecting with people that remember. And I mean, it's the best medicine on the planet for me. It's just
like
strangers. I mean, giving you hugs and wanting to say, "Oh, I remember you as a child," and well, usually it's the BeastMaster, but once in a while it's something else like the Star Wars commercial, and that blows me away. That all these years later, someone could come up to me and say kind things. That's why I.
And at a convention where you got that captured audience, and you match that with nostalgia. The stories people will tell you, and the heartfelt tales about when they were a kid.
I'm getting emotional just thinking about it because I mean, there's very few things in life that I think are like pure magic. Music is certainly one of them, and a stranger coming. It's not about fame even. It's because I'm not famous. It's just about somehow they remember, and it touched them in a way that is interesting. Not that it changed their life or anything, but just in a small, again, a footnote sort of way. Someone, you look in someone's eyes and they give you that love, a total stranger, and it's quite moving. It's profound. It really is, and it's very uplifting for the soul, for sure.
You and I connected on a Facebook group where you had mentioned that you were in that Snowspeeder commercial, and I was like, oh my goodness, I gotta talk to this kid. Not a kid anymore, but I gotta talk to him. He's in a Kenner commercial, and I've always wanted to be in a Kenner commercial.
Awesome, Richard. Well, you got a friend now. You know how to get in touch with me.
Aww.
Awesome.
Well, not only were you, a child commercial actor, you also played Tall in 1982's The BeastMaster. And if you had cable in the 1980s, you saw BeastMaster 4 times a day. And this film was like a resurgence of the sword and sandal fantasy films with Mark Singer. So can you tell us a little bit about that experience?
Wow, that's a great shot. Absolutely. Where would you like to begin with that one? The audition process?
The
Same kind of.
audition process. Did you walk in? It's like, hey, I'm the Snowspeeder kid. Let me in.
I probably should have done that, but no, I didn't. I actually said, George Lucas really, really likes me. That probably would have gotten me even further in this business. Anyway, again, it was we were in California now, so this was out here, and it was an audition like many others. But when I saw what it was and what the sides were, which is the small section of the script they were going to have me read for the audition, I got to say it was pretty cool. I mean, in the original script, they had the boy riding the back of the tiger. And yeah, my folks said, I don't see that happening. This was before CGI and all that. But before we get to that, so I go to the first audition. A lot of kids there, maybe not a ton like a commercial, maybe 10 or so, less than 10. And one by one, we're funneling in there to read for the casting director. I think Don Coscarelli might have even been there already, the director. There was a series of auditions, but he might not have been at the first one. But nonetheless, we read the sides. They had me do a little kata that they tried to teach me real quick, just to make sure I could again take direction and was coordinated, because that was a big part of the role. And then I got a call back.
Were you up against any child actors of the day? Were you up against Gary Coleman or Ricky Schroeder?
Gary Coleman and that would have been fun. Not that I know of. In those days, you didn't really get to hear a lot about that unless you were already a star, and then you knew, oh, so-and-so is also interested in this part, maybe. At our level as kids, unknown kids, basically. No, I mean, I don't know. I have one more story for you that we got to circle back to about the Champ in New York and Franco Zeffirelli, because that answers your question about this in a very interesting way. But skipping forward now. So I found out I got the role, and we were delivered the script, which is, a huge moment for any actor. That script arrives on your door, and it's like, wow, okay, this was cool.
This is real.
So,
this is happening.
This is real. Well, I have another story for you about that. It's not always real until you're there.
Until the film comes out.
It felt real. Yes, it felt real. You're right, Sarah. So we're reading the script with my folks, and again, the kid's supposed to ride the back of the tiger, and there's a lot of really amazing stuff in there that today they could totally do. But in 1982, when everything was practical, I think my parents realized there were going to have to be some adjustments, and there were. Sadly, I couldn't ride the back of the tiger, and there were some very strict rules and concerns about me being anywhere near the tiger, which was understandable because that movie was in production after the Twilight Zone disaster movie. So there was a lot of that energy was like, and we were doing, blades and fire and animal. I mean, there was potential danger there left and right on that set.
Yeah, and for anyone who doesn't know, a couple of kids and Vic Morrow were killed during the production of the Twilight Zone because they kept bringing down the helicopter lower and lower to the actors, and it went south very quickly, and three people were decapitated.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was awful. It was awful. I didn't even remember the decapitation thing, but I certainly remember the deaths. Yeah, it was anyway. So that was kind of in the air, and but anyway, I got the part. I was absolutely thrilled, and the more I learned about it, the happier I was. I mean, look, I'm 12 years old, and here's sword and sandals and battles and all that fun stuff. So long story. This is a long story. So it's shot in Simi Valley mostly. They built that 100-foot tall pyramid out there out of wood frame and stucco or whatever they did. It was almost like a styrofoam stucco because they wanted the stuntmen to be able to bounce off it safely. I thought that was kind of cool. So it was a dream come true. I mean, it was like going to fantasy camp for 14 weeks. I was out of school. I had an amazing set teacher, Linda, who looked out for me every day, because again, it was a little bit of the Wild West at that time. It wasn't as controlled as it is now. And it was an independent film. It was done on a relatively small budget with foreign money investors. It was a 30-year-old director, Don, who, that just blows me away to this day that, he was 30 years old. The biggest coup, in my opinion, for that movie, and I think this was Don Coscarelli that made this happen. I'm hoping it was. They managed to convince Sir John Alcott, who was Kubrick's director of photography, to come in from London and shoot that movie for them. Is that crazy? And that's why that movie looks so beautiful for such a silly movie. I mean, I don't belittle the movie because I love the movie, but to get Kubrick's DP. So it just happened to work out. The timing worked out. He wanted to come to Hollywood. This was his first film he did in Hollywood. He moved his whole family here. And
Wow.
it's an amazing story. And you know, he probably got paid more than anybody on that movie, and well deserved. I watched him work. I learned things as a kid watching him that I never learned in film school. And I mean, I tell a couple stories on the 4K DVD release if you really want to dig down deeper. But watching Sir John Alcott was absolutely incredible, absolutely unforgettable. And,
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, between the sets and the crew and the actors like Mark Singer and Tanya Roberts and John Amos, this must have been an adolescent's dream party. What is your favorite absolute memory from working on this film? What is that?
I was hoping you were going to ask me about this. Well, you want me to answer your first question first, or your second question?
Yeah,
first?
I just want to know, because I've seen this film like a billion times, and just setting myself in your shoes, because as a kid you always relate with the younger characters. So what was your absolute favorite memory from working on this set between the actors and the animals and everything?
Well, there's a couple top memories, but there was the spectacle at 3 a.m. of the explosion with the horses and the fire, and that was absolutely incredible. But my personal favorite memory was my one major small contribution to the film. We were doing our introduction scene with John Amos and myself and Mark Singer, and he approaches us, and John was told to spin his staff around like in a defensive posture to protect me. And for whatever reason, I was just possessed in the moment. They said roll. First take, we went. He spun his stick. I spun my stick in unison. Okay. Don called cut. He jumped out of his chair. It was like, I mean, you would thought I had like given the performance of a lifetime, right? But I just brought a little improv to the moment. He loved it. We did it 5 more times. And, it's kind of my favorite GIF or GIF that people pass around from the movie. One other story I'll tell you real quick about John Amos, just because he's such an incredible person. He's a lion and of a man, and a lion doesn't have to tell you you're a lion. He just walks in the room, and the presence is unbelievable. Okay, and Mark Singer's incredible in his own way too, but John is a very special man. They both are, but he looked out for me. He taught me how to behave on set. He taught me etiquette. He taught me it's okay to laugh on set, which is so important. And we were doing a scene around the campfire, I think it was. And he kept messing up his line or something. And I then would mess up, and we just started laughing and laughing and laughing. And I'll just never forget that, the whole crew started laughing because John Amos had just lost it. I don't even remember what we were doing. We were goofing around or something. And those are one of those core memories of joy on the set, in the midst of all the stress and the early mornings and the long days and some of the stuff that isn't as glamorous. A lot of it is. But, when you really are taken care of by someone who's a veteran actor who really went out of his way to show me the ropes and protect me. It tied into our characters too. So I think maybe he took that on from an acting perspective as well. But I haven't actually gotten to see John Amos since then, and it's definitely on my bucket list. And I know he's getting older now, so I'm friends with his daughter on Facebook. So I'm hoping. I think he lives on a ranch in Colorado somewhere. So I'm hoping when the timing's right that he and I will get to see each other again. I've seen Mark a few times over the years.
Was this his breakout role?
Well, Mark Singer did a movie that was absolutely amazing called If You Could See What I Hear.
Love that film.
Based on a Broadway play, and he acted his butt off. I mean, this guy is Shakespearean trained. He's the quintessential leading man. I mean, he was good looking, obviously. He got in crazy shape, but not like steroid bulked up like some action guys. He that was real. I mean, he was not, to my knowledge, that was all natural and ripped. I mean, he was going for more of a Bruce Lee look than a Hulk kind of look, right?
Right.
And anyway, but he had the full package. He could act. He was funny. He was physical. He was certainly coordinated and athletic. He could probably sing. I don't know. He didn't sing in the movie, but that was what impressed me with Mark, was that his background was so well rounded, and he brought all that to the role. He really did, especially the humor. If he didn't bring that humor, I don't think anybody really would have remembered this movie. I think his humor in many ways saved the movie. That's my opinion.
I recall seeing him on Planet of the Apes. He was in the TV series, and he played
Oh,
almost the
wow.
same kind of gladiator type. And then when I saw
Really?
Beastmaster, it's like, I know that guy from somewhere, and I couldn't look it up anywhere, but I think that was the connection to the Beastmaster that I recognized this actor.
Hmm. I don't
And
remember that, but I remember V. I remember he did V.
yeah, but that movie, if you could see what I hear, oh my god, that was such a fantastic. If you had HBO, it was Beastmaster. If you could see what I hear, Beastmaster. If you could see what I hear.
Really? Were they playing at the same time? I didn't even realize that. That's interesting. People used to joke that HBO stood for "Hey, Beastmaster's on." I heard a lot of that.
Wow.
So it was an incredible experience, and again, it's part of my legacy, and I kind of shied away from it for a long time, and now I'm fully embracing it again, and doing conventions and things like this, and it's been a blast.
And you were also in the film with Tanya Roberts. Now you were how old at this point?
12.
And you had to look at this all day.
She let me sit on her lap quite a bit, which was she loved screwing with me a little. It was great. I mean, it's very innocently, but and then she would do it just to mess with other people on the set. Even it was fantastic. I mean, I was just in the right place at the right time. What can I tell you? I mean, I didn't even know they made women that looked like that. I mean, it was just ridiculous, honestly. And she was just playing it up for all it was worth. And she owned that set. When she walked on that set, it was mostly men in those days. There were some women working, but it was mostly men. I mean,
if you got
she was the queen. She was
Yeah.
the queen.
Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
And I mean, her outfit, it's really funny because watching the clips from Beastmaster that you have posted on your YouTube channel, which is great, by the way, they remind me of the Xena, the Warrior Princess, and
Yeah.
Hercules series in the 90s, which I grew up watching. And
Right,
so, yeah, it's like very similar aesthetic there.
This is the roots. Yeah, no, same genre for sure.
Yes.
And she had her own movie, I think. I forget later. Sheena.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
If you want to really go down the rabbit hole of 80s sword and sorcery movies, no, she was professional and kind and fun. I was very playful. We were all there to have fun. The only person who was dead serious that I interacted with, and maybe he wasn't with everybody else, was Rip Torn, the bad guy. And he wanted to be intimidating, and his whole thing with the turkey vulture take on the role was, he tells this story about how he pitched wearing this prosthetic turkey vulture nose, and he wanted the villain to be like a what did he say, like a feral turkey or something. And that was his take on the part. And yeah, he was great. I mean, it was a total cartoon, but that was kind of the point. You know what I mean? It wasn't supposed to be real. It's a fantasy. And
Yeah, there's a lot of heavy hitters in this film. Rip Torn, my
in
goodness.
retrospect, right? Yeah.
And you said that you had stayed in touch with Mark Singer?
Yeah, he and I have met for lunch a few times over the years at Dupar's in the Valley, which was a kind of a Hollywood coffee shop there near CBS Radford. And he's great. His enthusiasm is very infectious. He just has an amazing energy and attitude. And I mean, my God, when he goes to a convention, I can't even imagine how high he's flying from all the love that they give him at those things. So it's been nice to kind of connect to him. He lived very close to an old friend of mine, so I was in that neighborhood a lot. And it was always very warm and friendly. And we kind of toyed with some ideas and some pitches and things, and then life went on. But he was great. He feels like family, even though obviously he's not. And so does John and Tanya. Yeah.
So the Beastmaster was such a big part of your life that right now we're looking at you and a pinball machine, a Beastmaster pinball machine. What's up with this?
I'm a very nerdy guy, and during COVID, this was my COVID project. I built this cabinet, which is run on a very powerful PC at 4K, and these incredible artists and coders digitally recreate pinball machines to play in 3D or 2D. And the idea originally was to archive all these old machines that are disappearing, because they're just old. Now, though, these guys are doing original machines. They're doing their own stuff as well as all the archiving. And through a Facebook group, this was the best thing that ever happened to me on Facebook, I think. Second best thing. I met a gentleman in France named Ludovic, who actually speaks English very well. And I asked him if he would consider making a BeastMaster version, because every 80s movie is represented in the library. And I figured, well, we got to get BeastMaster in there, Conan, they're all there. So he had never heard of the movie, but I sent him a bunch of, and it was kind of big in Europe. I was a little surprised, but I sent him a bunch of artwork and we talked about it and I designed it aesthetically. And then he took over the coding and it's been downloaded thousands of times. It's free, totally free to use. And it plays. I have the trailer running in the background, and a different artist made this beautiful backglass for it that is, 3K image. But virtual pinball, if you like pinball, is an amazing hobby. You have to be a little familiar with computers to get it going. But if you love pinball, it's just amazing.
So is this just a one-off, or did they make more for collectors?
The way it works is people build their own rigs or they buy a kit. And then there are these websites where you download all your software for free. All the tables are all the pinball tables are free. So he made this for me. It's gorgeous. It's absolutely beautiful. And I'm going to try to bring a smaller rig than this to the convention and set it up there. I think people might want to see it and then, just play.
Now, when you say rig, is it like it looks like a pinball machine? Or
yeah. Here, let me see. It is in the form of reminiscent of a pinball machine. There's a real one over there, right?
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Here, as you can see, we load up the game. It's loading. Let's give it a second. All right, now we're into the game. You can hear I'm inserting quarters. I press start. And then the ball comes up over there. Whoops. The ball comes up there. Can you see that?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's the plunger, right?
Oh.
I pulled every line from the movie that was worth listening to.
That's fun.
Wow. And that's
is that cool?
Yeah.
And here, look at this. Look how cool. Can you see the ball in the thing?
Yeah, over to the right.
Yep.
Yeah. And you
watch it. You see it move?
Oh no, it's a little far down.
It has a sensor in it.
Oh my gosh.
See it?
There
okay,
it goes.
we see the ball.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, cool.
And release the
It
plunger.
has a sensor in it that shakes. It's amazing. It's an amazing technology, and the fact that these guys are making these things for free and give them away. All right, so now I'm going to turn this down. I got to show you my prized possession from the BeastMaster that I got very recently. The gentleman who designed the sword for the BeastMaster, which in sword and sorcery circles is very coveted as a masterpiece, was Victor Anselmo. And his son, Victor has passed, but his son John took up the mantle and made a very limited run of these beautiful versions of the BeastMaster sword.
Wow.
And this is not a wall hanger. This is battle-worthy. It's very heavy. I wish you could see it. It's absolutely beautiful. So AnselmoKnives.com. I want to give him a nice plug because he's a new friend. I do not make money from these. He did give me a great price on one for doing a little video for his introduction on his website, which I was happy to do for him because I've wanted this sword my whole life. I mean, the real one's missing. I don't know if you know that story. That's a whole folklore story. But apparently Mark Singer, on the last day of shooting, entrusted it to the crew to do some insert shots, which he never would do. And it disappeared.
Oh.
And Mark does have one of these from John for sure. Before I got one, he got one. But it's a big mystery. It's a big part of and the negative of the film is missing apparently too.
Oh.
How weird is that? There's a whole website dedicated to, have you seen the negative? So somebody dropped the ball there. But the sword mystery is an interesting one. There's a lot of theories that the executive producer absconded with it and went off to the Middle East with it, or that one of the crew members took it. But you'd think in 30 some years it would have surfaced by now, right? But
no.
But anyway, John Anselmo makes these. They're absolutely incredible. He makes the scabbard too.
Wow.
I think he's going to make a half-size one, and we're talking about maybe a letter opener. I give him these crazy ideas. I would love to sell the letter opener at conventions. I just think that would be a fun thing.
That would be great.
When I go to conventions, I do bring the sword, and I have a nice background, and people take pictures with me with the sword or without me, whatever they want.
So when you go to conventions, you bring that. Do you also bring a snowspeeder?
I should, but it's interesting. Some people at these conventions, they do have like I have a banner with my BeastMaster pictures and things that I pull up, but some people do have these commercials, and maybe I should incorporate that. I guess the Star Wars angle, I didn't really think of even that being a draw for me at conventions, but maybe it is. You think it is?
Oh, it'd be a huge draw.
It is now.
Are you serious?
Yes, because like we were saying before, it ties in with nostalgia, and nostalgia right now is just so big. If I saw you at a convention, if I saw the BeastMaster, it's like, oh, I love that film. But if I saw you with that Snowspeeder, it's like right there. Okay, I want your autograph.
Get out of here.
I'm serious, yes. And I'm not one for autographs, but for something like that connects with my childhood so personally, that yes, I would go in for that. Which is why I'm saying there needs to be a Kenner convention.
Wow. You're making me rethink my whole convention strategy.
Yeah.
Well, all right, Richard, we're going to talk later, because if you're serious, because I do enjoy doing the conventions.
Maybe at some point the other kid will show up. It's like, hey, Josh, it's me.
That would be great. Well, there's a good idea for a YouTube channel, right? Reuniting adults, and we can recreate our commercials as children when we were children.
Yes.
People recreate those family photos in funny ways. Like,
yeah.
You get that going, Richard? Give me a call.
Oh, definitely will. Definitely will.
All right. So you want to hear, before we wrap it up, because I know I'm going way over, I want to tell you about my experience with Franco Zeffirelli as a child, because this is a unique story that I think should be told. So I was 8.
And who is this again?
Franco Zeffirelli is one of the most famous directors of all time.
Okay.
He was European. He did Romeo and Juliet. If you looked him up on IMDb, you go, oh my God, Franco Zeffirelli. It's like he's on like a Coppola level. Okay. So he was making a little movie called The Champ.
Oh, Ricky Schroeder, yeah.
Correct. So I read for this part, got a callback, second callback, third callback. This is New York City at MGM. I'm being told that they want me to screen test for The Champ. Great. Love it. Go in. I'm with my dad. I'm 8 years old in a soundstage in New York City at MGM. And here I am reading these sides with Ryan O'Neal, who was supposed to play the lead at that point, and Franco Zeffirelli on 35 millimeters shooting us. Dude, this is the lost footage I'm looking for. Okay. And sure enough, it was a big crying scene. No problem. Some of the other kids were, having some issues. Franco Zeffirelli was taking sharpened pencils and jabbing kids in the ribs to get them to cry on camera, because he wanted to see what they look like when they cry. Okay. This was a different time, right? And I don't know if they were bleeding or anything, but it was enough to make these kids cry. And my dad says to me, if that touches you with that pencil, you let me know. And my dad's not like a tough guy, but he was enraged, right? But I didn't have to use the pencil. I could cry. I was a trained little actor, rocked the scene, went home. Next day I was told I got the part. Okay. Not only did I get the part, 7-year contract with MGM. My parents are telling me this as a kid. Our lives are going to change, right? We're going to California. We're not even going to California at this point, but our lives are going to change, Josh. Okay. Let's do the movie. Okay. So long story short, Ryan O'Neal drops out. They get John Voight. Don't get me started on John Voight. And they fly out to California to hire a blondie, and they got Silver Spoons. So that was my first Hollywood heartbreak story at the very tender age of like 7 or 8 years old.
Oh.
And I often wonder if that had gone differently, what might have happened. But I also understand that if I had had that kind of success at that age and into my coming of age years, into my 20s, I easily could have gone down the Charlie Sheen path. So maybe it was a blessing in disguise.
Yeah.
I mean, years later, I was in Beverly Hills in the 80s. It was insane. Drugs and alcohol and partying and cars and houses and empty houses. It was unbelievable. So, if I was some kind of movie actor then, a recognizable one, I think it might have been a slippery slope. so maybe it was a blessing. But as a 7-year-old, it was a learning experience. And to this day, I do have an autograph that says, "Congratulations, Josh," from Franco Zeffirelli. So it's been in a drawer for all these years. I guess I could probably put it up on the wall now or in the office, but for a long time, I just put it away.
Oddly enough, a lot of child actors died that year because of lead poisoning.
From the pencil.
Being jabbed in the
pencil. That's right. I got you. And Unsolved Mysteries, Franco Zeffirelli, what they call cold case.
I bet at that age you really learned a valuable lesson that you don't always get what you want. As a kid, a lot of kids don't understand that now, but at that age, you learn that and I think you're going to be so better adjusted later on in life.
Well, that's a whole other podcast. But yes, I agree with most of what you're saying. Not only did I learn you don't always get what you want, but you don't always get what you're told you're going to get, which was a very harsh lesson. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I said to you, like, nothing's real in this business until you're there and the camera's rolling, you know, because even then it might not get released, right? But at least you know you were there. They captured what they needed to capture, and what they do with it after that, you know, that's out of my control usually. But so yeah, it was a tough lesson. Now, as far as being well adjusted as a child actor, I think it's a miracle that I wasn't in rehab or jail or dead, because so many, and that's a credit to my parents because they were very involved and very hands-on. I was an only child, but so many kids were exposed to so much weirdness and grew up so fast, and had so much access to resources, you know, and money, and people wanted to give them things. And, you know, it's dangerous, especially in the time before cell phones, before your parents could track your phone and find out where the hell you are, before you could just call home at any second. You know, you had to find payphone. You know what I mean? It's like, it was a dangerous time for children in a lot of ways. And yeah, there was some pedophilia and all that. I'm not really even going that far, but just the atmospheres sometimes that we find ourselves in, or the language, or the stories, or the jokes. And, you know, that's why I say I grew up fast, and it wasn't terrible, but I just feel very grateful that I didn't have the experience of someone like Gary Coleman, or you know, Diana Plato, or some of these really tragic stories that unfolded at the same time. You know, Mackenzie Phillips.
I think it all comes down to the parents, and knowing, like your parents said, no, he ain't gonna be riding no tiger. Get Ricky Schroeder for that. He'll be a stand-in.
Well, they were smart enough to know that wasn't going to happen. But yeah, it is a credit to my parents. But at the same time, you know, my parents both worked. I had a guardian or a set teacher on set with me a lot of the times when they couldn't be there for different things. So, you know, they had to trust certain other adults. And I think they had a screening process, and but I was an only child, so there was no do-over for them.
Right.
But, you know, I think all things considered, yeah, I'm fairly well adjusted for an ex-child actor. I think I definitely, you know, I have a little bit of a Peter Pan complex, and I kind of embrace that.
Around, don't we all?
Yeah, I mean, I you know, the older I get, the more I feel like there's nothing wrong with that. You know, if something brings you joy, run with it. If you're not hurting anybody, you know, and if a toy brings you some joy and it's not going to make you homeless because you're breaking the bank, get the toy. And that's what I told my son. You know, he's searching frantically for this Ninjago General Cobra figure. It's like a $40 Lego figure. I'm like, dude, you're not going to spend $40. Like, come on, man. But it's been 8 years. He's been looking at this figure. He just, he's just done with 11th grade, and he's still looking for it. I said, dude, buy the figure. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like, if that's going to really give you some peace of mind or something, and go for it. I mean, I love toys. I understand the joy of hunting and finding toys and collecting toys. Before we go, I got to show you my shelf over there of some things from my childhood, all kinds of random action figures and stuff. That's each one is special to me. So I get it. And for me to squash that in my own son would be very hypocritical, and I would be denying him of the same joy. As long as you learn, you know, lessons like saving up for things, you can't get it all at once. You know, I was very careful about spacing stuff out and trying to teach them a little bit of responsibility, but because it's very easy to spoil your kids. I don't know if you guys have kids, but I can see how that can happen.
Our podcast is our kid.
There you go. That and you'll save a lot on college tuition.
Well, before we wrap it up, I know you've been talking about working in post-production. What are you doing now?
Yeah, is there anything you'd like to plug?
There's a little show that I love called World's Funniest Animals. It's on the CW network. I've been editing for them for a long time, and last season they asked me to appear as a celebrity guest on the show. So that's on my YouTube channel. So that's been a blast. You know, it's not Star Wars, but it's a fun little clip show with comedians and animals, and I get to create it in my garage. So I feel very, very fortunate that I can make a living doing that. I do other shows for them too. Masters of Illusion is a big magician show. They have a Christmas, some different Christmas shows that they do in the holidays. They're wonderful. In the meantime, you know, I've done everything from scripted to sports to non-scripted to commercials, music videos. I mean, I am a grizzled veteran. I can send you my bio. At this point, it's kind of like I feel like Tom Berenger in Platoon, but or maybe Willem Dafoe if I'm lucky on a good day. Basically, what happened was when I got to high school, I realized that auditioning every day and worrying about my skin and my weight and my hair every day was kind of exhausting. Okay. And I kind of pulled back from it. And then I went to film school thinking, okay, I'm going to be a director. This is going to be great. I'll be a director. But, in my infinite wisdom, I didn't realize, a cast in a film, there's 30, 40 people. Usually there's one director. So I actually kind of narrowed my odds a lot. But I made some independent films. I did some film festivals and shorts, and I did a feature film finally. My goal was to do one before I was 30, like Don did. I think I was 35, so that's all right.
Is that film available somewhere?
Yeah, it's called String Theory. It should be on Netflix.
Oh.
My trailer is on the YouTube channel, and you can certainly buy a DVD still. I'm sure they're all over the web. It's a fun story. It was written by an old dear friend of mine. It's kind of a Robert Altman-esque, many characters weaving together in a plot revolving around. It's a love story, number one, but it also touches on AIDS and a hallucinogenic drug, which is a very controversial and interesting substance that's out there. Anyway, it's called String Theory, and we had a blast making it, and we had some moderate success with it. It obviously didn't put me on the map the way I was hoping, but it's a lovely little movie. And it's a love story. Again, it's charming. So after film school, I started working as a PA for a show on CBS called The Trials of Rosie O'Neill with Sharon Gless. I don't know if you remember that from Cagney and Lacey. Yeah. That was a show. It was amazing. I PA'd on that. Crashed a production truck. Luckily,
haven't we all?
Yeah, the blessing. Luckily, I was never asked to drive a truck again, so I got a walkie-talkie issued to me, and I was on the set, which actually worked out much better for me because I'm a terrible truck driver. But I learned a lot buzzing around that set with a walkie-talkie, just doing anything and everything that had to be done. Then I moved up to assistant coordinator. I was an AD for a long time, and then I got a call from an older cousin of mine who was a successful television editor, and he said, "Josh, you like computers?" So there's something called the Avid coming out, and it's basically going to do for editing what the word processor did for writers. And he said, "Can you come down here to I think it was the Post Group in Hollywood?" I said, "What time?" He said, "Right now." I said, "Yeah, I'll be there." So I hopped down there. We watched this incredible demo that blew my mind. I became an editor's assistant with him for a few years. Then I became a post-production coordinator, post-production supervisor. Now I edit a lot on all kinds of non-scripted stuff. A lot of it at home these days, which is kind of fun. And I field produce, which kind of feels like directing because I get to go out with a crew and conduct interviews and get coverage and B-roll. In non-scripted, they don't usually use the word director because that brings up union issues, right?
Oh.
It's very timely. Okay, so field producing. And the thing about field producing, which is so wonderful, is that real people want direction. You know what I mean? Like if you've never been on camera before, ever, if you can find someone you trust that will tell you, and like I can communicate to them how I'm going to make you look good. I promise. That's why I'm here. You know what I mean? They want direction. Whereas when you work with actors, sometimes, not always, but sometimes, you're up against their acting teacher, their coach, their instincts, their feelings about the part, or, whatever they're going through in the day. But, a normal, real, regular person just wants to not look foolish and will take direction. So I really do enjoy field producing a lot, and it gets me out of the editing room. But that's pretty much been my life for the last 30 years or so, 25 years. Yeah.
That's great. You're the ultimate person everyone wants on a set because you've been in front of the camera, behind the camera. You've done a little bit of everything. And I've been on sets with people who have directors who have no idea about anything else. So the day takes so long because they kind of explain everything. And producers, I've worked with producers. I used to work in creature special effects. You got to explain to them about things, which takes so long, and they just still don't get it.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's a team effort, and making any kind of content, from a podcast to unless you're painting and oil painting by yourself, you need other people, to do good work with you and hopefully collaborate and not fight you along the way. And getting things done on time in a shooting day is a challenge if you have a challenging day ahead of you. And as a second AD, first AD, that's been my responsibility many times. And, I had an AD named Clifford when I was directing my little film. He was a tall guy, and he would come up behind me with a pocket watch, and he'd just lay it on my shoulder. And he didn't have to say a word. And he'd be like, time's ticking, brother. You know what I mean? Like, and that would be his way of saying, Josh, come on, man. It's been a journey, my friends. It's been an interesting journey.
Wow.
Brooklyn to Beverly Hills. Yeah, pretty crazy.
Well, we can't wait for your book to come on out because you get tons of stories.
Yeah, no kidding.
And this is gonna be a whole volume set.
But maybe verbally. I don't know if I'm an author, but I appreciate the sentiment very much.
Well, thank you, Josh, for sharing all your stories. This is great. More stories than we ever thought about BeastMaster and Snowspeeders and the industry itself. It's always great talking to someone that was part of your childhood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, it's a pleasure to meet both of you, and I hope to meet you in person sometime. And I look forward to seeing this. This is going to be a blast.
Absolutely.
I just lost 50 pounds. So when you asked me, am I going to be on camera, I was actually kind of happy, which is very rare that I'm happy about being on camera.
Well, congratulations.
So this is good. People can actually see that I'm looking more like myself these days. Which is
all right, Josh.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
We look forward to meeting you in person someday.
I hope so. I'm around.
Excellent. All right.
May the force be with you.
May the force be with you as well. And Rebel Armored Snowspeeders. All right, well, that wraps up this Kenner episode 422 of
Skywalking Through Neverland.
We want to thank Joshua Milrad and Chris Timmons, the Kenner kids, and we want to thank all you Skywalkers who attended this live stream and chatted in the Sky Chat and commented on all of our Facebook posts and have been liking our Instagram and YouTube Shorts videos. Every day we're doing a new Today in Star Wars history.
Yes, and we're also back on TikTok because I figured out how to re-log in to TikTok. So if you happen to be on TikTok, if you want to follow us there, if that's easier for you, please do. It's Skywalking Pod.
Now, Skywalkers, are you interested in our books? Well, you came to the right place because autographed copies of Today in Star Wars History Part 1 and 2 and Skywalking Through My Fandom, the interactive notebook, are now available from skywalkingthroughneverland.com/book. If you're at Comic-Con this July in San Diego, we'll be there doing a panel. More on that to come.
That's right. We need to start promoting that.
Yes.
But we will be there on Friday evening. We're doing a huge Star Wars trivia challenge with teams. So it's going to be really fun, and you can come by yourself, and the whole panel will be split up into 2 teams.
Yeah. We just did this in Ontario for their Comic-Con. Had a fantastic time. Oh my goodness, so much fun. Boy, if you think we're hams now on stage, it just never stops.
No, it's really cool.
So we'll have a couple of books there with us, and then we will be at Long Beach Comic-Con on September 2nd and September 3rd. And once again, where is that? In Long Beach.
In Long Beach. Yay.
We're going to have a table. We're going to have a table there.
Yeah.
You know how I know that? Because we just paid for it today.
Oh, perfect. All right. Well, we would like to thank our sponsor, Small World Vacations, for their support. Are you thinking of a trip to Disney parks? You can fill out a Get a Quote form at smallworldvacations.com today. And if you can't get to a Disney park, well, we go a lot. In fact, I'm going to Pride Night tomorrow night with the Neverland Clubhouse Turkel sisters. So we're going to talk all about that probably next week. That'll be really fun. And their vacation planning service is free of charge. So check it out and tell them that Skywalking Through Neverland sent you.
Well, I don't want to keep on saying this, but I'll say it again. If you want to support Skywalking Through Neverland, of course I want to keep saying this. Well, consider becoming part of the Skywalking Force. And the Skywalking Force, they've got access to the bonus content, like our panel we did on the crazy Star Wars rumors of the 70s and 80s, and all of our discussions on the Disney Plus shows, such as WandaVision up to Andor to Mandalorian. A bunch of us get together and give our initial thoughts and our reactions to the episodes.
And what's coming up soon? The Marvel show.
Oh, next week?
Yeah.
Next week, Secret Invasion begins.
Yes, so we're going to restart those Zoom discussions, and that will be just for the Skywalking Force. So make sure you are subscribed. And that bonus content begins at only $5 a month. So head to skywalkingforce.com, have a look at the options, and thank you so much to those of you who are already part of the Skywalking Force. Now we are part of the Skywalking Network.
Skynet.
Where you can find other great shows like Talking Apes,
The Neverland Clubhouse,
the Max Effects Podcast,
Star Warsologies,
Totally Tell Me Everything,
and the YouTube shows Collectopolis,
and our shorts Today in Star Wars History
on Instagram and YouTube.
And TikTok.
So we're going to ask everyone if you have got a couple of seconds to spare, maybe go over to those platforms and just like and leave a comment, because the more comments that these videos get, the higher in the algorithm it gets.
Yeah, whichever your preferred.
And if you want to just hit the like button, great. But
Yeah.
comments really, really help.
Yeah. All right. Well, we are on social media at Skywalking Pod for Twitter and Instagram and TikTok. And you can find us on Facebook. We have our Facebook group. You can also find us on Facebook, where in the events, we'll be posting events where we'll be to sell our books, things like that. Also, incidentally, Skywalkers, our business, on our business website, we have, if you have kids or if you like free events around the Los Angeles area, we have a free event calendar at heyheyentertainment.com, and that shows what events you can attend in the LA and Orange County areas for free this summer.
Yeah, got some more trivia challenges coming up. Just did a Harry Potter one a couple of days ago in Studio City, and there's another one.
We got some building ones coming up.
Yeah, got a lot of free programs for the kids.
Yes,
puppet shows, magic shows, tons and tons of stuff. Once again, go over there to heyheyentertainment.com.
All right, you can email us, share@skywalkingthroughneverland.com. Yay.
Now, don't forget to stick around for bloopers and other fun bits that didn't make it into the show. And
always remember
to be careful when you're eating your pizzos. Not the greeny green ones, but the orange ones.
And
Neverland on Alderaan. Hey, look at those names to the left. They are part of the Skywalking Force, our Patreon.
Become a producer yourself and check out all the Disney Plus themed bonus content available depending on the level you subscribe.
Become a member of the elite Skywalking Force at skywalkingforce.com.